So I just learned this a couple of weeks ago. Did you know that several colonialist and fascist regimes have banned the Magnificat? This song we just sang, the song that Mary sings as she kind of rejoices in her part in bringing Christ into the world. But if you think about it, it actually makes sense that this song would make the powerful uneasy, right? Mary sings, "He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and sent the rich empty away." So it's a protest song, in a way. So the British Empire suppressed the reading or singing of the Magnificat both in India and Kenya because these people, interesting stuff here, right? So you bring them your religion, and then they read your scripture, and then you're waiting like, no, don't read that part. And actually, I think some of you are aware of this. The United States did the same thing. There was a slave Bible published in the early 1800s, like 1807. And what it was a Bible that was edited of everything that may have an enslaved person think they should be liberated. So for instance, the whole Exodus story is gone, where God redeems the enslaved Hebrew people from Pharaoh. So we've done the same thing. But Mary's song was also banned or suppressed in Tsarist Russia, in Guatemala, in Argentina, in Spain, and South Africa. It was deemed that radical. So Mary sings, "He has lifted up the lowly and filled the hungry with good things." And of course, poor and oppressed people would see this as a song of their own liberation. So I poked around a little bit in the Gospels about Mary, and here's some interesting things about her. So after St. Peter, she has more lines, more speaking parts in the Gospels than any other disciple of Jesus. She has more lines than any other woman in the Gospels. No other character in the Gospels sounds more like a prophet from the Hebrew Bible than Mary does. And no character other than Jesus himself speaks so boldly and clearly about overthrowing rulers and overthrowing the powers of oppression. And if you think about it in context, that took some courage. So considering the fact that Rome routinely arrested and executed critics of the empire, would you have risked saying God intended to pull Caesar down from his throne? I'm not sure I would, but Mary did. So the woodcut on the cover of the bulletin today is a really pretty accurate depiction of Mary. Okay, she's fine, the thing in the window up there, it's pretty, and she was probably a great mother too. But with her kind of boots and stomping on the oppressors, that's a good depiction of Mary. But I wonder, is that how you have viewed Mary in the past? A brave and bold prophet for justice. And I have to confess that I mostly have not. I've mostly seen her, like she's in that window, draped in pinks and pale blues and silently kneeling before Jesus. And that's really no accident. That's pretty much the Mary we find in every manger scene, in art glass, in all kinds of art. And it's also the Mary in most of our Christmas carols. So consider just these verses from 3 carols. Mary was that mother mild, Jesus Christ her little child. Sing of Mary, meek and lowly, virgin mother, pure and mild. Gentle Mary laid her child lowly in a manger. Meek, lowly, gentle, pure, mild. So where did the Mary of the Magnificat go? Where's the fearless prophet in that? And I would say a church ruled by men, a culture in love with power, just sort of pushed her to the side, which is often what happens when women, powerful women, speak up for themselves or for others, both then and now. So I think some of you have heard this story before. When our daughter Rebecca was in high school, she and 3 of her friends founded a feminist coalition. And they did this because they themselves were experiencing a lot of unchecked sexism at their school, from catcalling to unfair policies. And from the start of wanting to start that coalition, they faced resistance. So the teacher who was in charge of organizations told them that the word feminist was too divisive and it was too exclusive. He told them you need at least 50 signatures of students and a faculty sponsor to start a new group. And they went out and got those in the afternoon. So they had their coalition. And their first action was to protest the school's sexist dress code. So one of the lines in the dress code was targeting girls alone and not boys. And it said something like this: girls should dress so as not to be a distraction. So their action was pretty simple. The girls would come to school dressed in any way they wanted, often breaking the code. And they would write on their arms with a Sharpie marker, "I am not a distraction." And the boys in the coalition came to school and they'd written on their arms, "I am not distracted." Now, I knew several of those boys, and I suspect some of them were a bit distracted. But good for them for standing up for their friends. But this really shocked us. The response to this action was both immediate and harsh. About 50 boys in a group text threatened to sexually assault these girls and their mothers. And it was shocking to me that high school boys learn so early that you use sexual violence to put women down. How did they learn this already as sophomores in high school? Rude flyers were made and taped over the school hallways. And on the Saturday after that action, someone in the night came and put a sausage with a condom on it on our front porch. And I was just stunned. So meanwhile, the school administrators were aware of all this and they did nothing to make it public. They just wanted to be kind of quiet and they talked to these boys. They didn't report any of these threats to the officers who worked at this, police officers who worked at the school. But the action did lead to changes in the dress code. And 10 years later, that feminist coalition is still alive and well at the school. But I have to say, I was stunned by the hateful backlash that these young women faced. And I was really disappointed in the utter lack of support from adults who were supposed to be there to protect them. Again, that's just a common reaction women face when they stand up for themselves. So how are we doing today? Today, fewer than half of Christian churches worldwide ordain women. Fewer than half. And I think that's just gone on so long, we don't think that's a problem. But imagine that. Fewer than half of the churches ordain women. And in churches that do ordain women, like ours, women still lag behind in salaries. They lag behind in leadership positions, head of staff positions at churches. And I think you're aware of this. There's a renewed Christian nationalist movement in our country right now that has the support of some very powerful people. And what that movement wants for women is for them to be more like the Mary of the carols, meek and mild, kneeling at the feet of men. So you may have seen this back in August. The Secretary of War, who is a very powerful person, endorsed a pastor who believes that women should not have the right to vote. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. So it's not stunning that there is some pastor out there, there are a lot of crazy pastors, who think that women shouldn't have the right to vote, but that the Secretary of Defense endorses someone like this, that is troubling. Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization that's now, at least in part, being run by his wife, encourages a biblical womanhood that embraces marriage, motherhood, and femininity. So what does that mean for women who aren't married, right? So they're just sort of left out of this. And femininity, that's right back to the gentle, meek, and mild. So women are to support the headship of men. So what happened to Mary happens to women over and over and over again all the time. And I have to say, that is just such a poverty for the church. So consider our church, consider our leadership. Just look at the back of the bulletin. That's where our leaders are listed. The majority of our amazing leaders, and we have amazing leaders at this church, the majority of our leaders are women. And if you just think about like what's gone on in the last year or so in the church, and take those women away, and probably 3/4 of it wouldn't have happened. And speaking of songs of resistance, it has mostly been the women who have led our congregation into acts of protest. So the Reverend Kelly Allen, who was the pastor here before me, she led this church to become one of the first churches in Missouri to become a Morlite congregation. And that was a position of civil disobedience, of violating our Constitution because it attacked queer people. So she led this church down that path. And I don't know if most of you know this, but after Michael Brown was killed in the protest that follows, it was Nancy Pasco who was on the session. Nancy Pasco like planned this guerrilla action where she was going to put like 8 or 10 Black Lives Matter signs in the churchyard at night. So I suspect that because women have so often been the victims of oppression, like Mary was, they're more likely to speak up for the oppressed. And so women are uniquely able to bear Christ's justice and love into the world. And to be clear, justice and love are the foundation of Christ's kingdom. And so the church should not be telling women like Mary to shut up. The church should be amplifying their voices. So, Mary, the mother of Jesus, she had this outspoken side. She spoke out for the liberation of her people. She spoke out for the poor, for the hungry, and for the oppressed. But she also had this other side. And I don't mean the gentle, meek, and lowly side that the church has given her. I mean her spiritual depth. And we see that side of Mary in the passage that our Mary read for us today. So in that passage, Mary gets this earth-shattering news from an angel. She will get pregnant and bear a son. And we who know the whole story know what that news actually means. It means that she will become homeless, that she will become an enemy of the state, that she will be forced to flee her country to save her child. She will live as a refugee, and in the end, her son will be executed by Rome. It means all of that. And Mary's reply to this earth-shattering news is like a Zen master's reply might be. She says, "Here I am, let it be. Here I am, God's servant, let it be to me as you have said." So she's saying something like this: this is what life is giving me. This is what God is giving me. I accept it without complaint or resistance. I accept it without complaint or resistance. More than that, I accept it with this song. This is what true faith looks like. It is complete and total trust, a trust that all things work together for good. All things, oppressor and oppressed, work together for good. Birth and death work together for good. All things work together for good. As I said, it's the point of view of a Zen master. It's the kind of faith that Mary had. And this faith leads her not to fear and trembling, but to action. And so she has the courage to speak out against tyrants. She has the courage to despoil the rich. She has the courage to bear both Christ's love and Christ's justice into the world. Lord, give us the faith of Mary.